Hello, dear colleagues, dear participants joining us across the globe. And if you are just joining us, you're welcome to this class on teaching methods. And of course, like I promised the last time in our last video, we said we are going to discuss more on the method of teaching. And we want to resume to the method of teaching now. We also want to look at the essential method uh, that every teacher must master. And this video is like a practical guide to lecture method, discussion method, demonstration method, problem solving method, cooperative learning method, guided discovery method, concept mapping, metacognition, argumentation, project-based learning, competency-based learning, and Culturo-Techno-Conceptual Approach, that is the CTCA. And of course, in this video, we are going to explain how we can use each of these methods, how we can apply them effectively, and likewise, the categories of NANA you can use each of these methods for across all the level of education at elementary, at secondary, and also at tertiary. Of course, if you are just joining us for the first time, just try to subscribe to this channel. You can also share this video with others for them to know those methods you can share. You can share with teachers in service. If I say teachers in service, those are the teachers that have already been employed, either by a private organization or by government. You can also as well share this video with teachers in training. Those are the College of Education, those at university, those at conventional university in the faculties of education. This video will definitely be useful for all of them. So without wasting much of our time, I want us to quickly look at what is teaching method itself. Like I said in the last video, I said a teaching method is a systematic and organized approach a teacher uses to deliver content. Of course, if you could recall, when we are talking about instructional objective, we talk about the content, we talk about the message, we talk about the platform and the like. So this time around, we are talking about a systematic and organized approach a teacher uses to deliver that content. To facilitate learning and also to help students to achieve a specific educational objective. So whatever teaching method you want to use, don't forget that everything is still around how to achieve your instructional objectives. So it includes the strategies, the techniques, the procedure that guide how instruction is planned, presented, and assessed in the classroom. So teaching methods are influenced by educational theories. So the nature of the subject matter. So like I said, there are things that are matter before you select your method of teaching. The natures of the subject matter, the learner's characteristics, and the learning environment. Because those are those ones that determine how teaching happens, not just what is taught. Of course, you may know what to teach, but not without you may know what to teach, but if you fail to use appropriate method in delivering the message, you may likely be putting your words may likely be bouncing back to you, getting back to you. So I'll be talking about how learning experience are structured to promote understanding in the areas of critical thinking and the skill development. So an effective teacher must know multiple methods of teaching, and you must know when to apply them, in the class. And your application or your choice of choosing the method of teaching, centered around 4 areas. The first one is the subject. The second one is the learner's age. The third one is the availability. And the fourth one is the learning objective. So I'll be discussing the following as a core teaching method that are essential for you as a 21st century educator. Of course, the general one that is known to all of us is the lecture method, which almost every one of us will use in our daily basis, and it is the easiest method most teachers use. So another name for lecture method is exploratory method. A lecture method is a teacher-centered approach where the instructor verbally presents information to learner. I will just tell you some of the characteristics of a lecture method. One of the characteristics of a lecture method is that information flow manually from the teacher to learner. And students just listen, they just take notes and ask occasional questions. Anytime a teacher is using that kind of a method, you're actually using lecture method. And it's also time efficient for large classes. So when you are in a large classes, the best approach you use, most teachers use, they make use of lecture method. So why use lecture method? Why do we use it? For sometimes we use it to introduce a new topic that required background explanation. We also use it to cover content quickly. When you have too much content to cover and then you have a large class, you quickly use it to cover your content quickly, especially theoretical or any abstract concept. So you also use it. It is also useful when students have a minimum period knowledge. When the student already have some kind of knowledge on it about the class, you can also use it. So when do we use it? I've talked about why do we use it. I need to talk about when to use it. You use lecture method when you have a large lecture hall or in a classroom where you have more than required students. In Nigerian context now, the normal class arrangement is 35 students to one teacher. The ratio, it is 35 to one teacher. That's the ratio. So when you are now having like 70, 100, at that moment, the best method you can use is lecture method. So we can also use it in subjects like history, economics, or maybe in a class where you feel the student already have a background information. So how do we use lecture method effectively? First thing is that you break the lecture into short segments. Maybe you put it into 10 to 15 minutes. You make sure that it is not really much time. Then you can also use a verbal clause. Then you can incorporate a visual, probably maybe in terms of maybe you have a slide or you have a PowerPoint presentation or any chart or simulation that can guide the student while you are using it. That is when you can use lecture method and it will be effective. And also, you need to ask pause question to maintain attention. Sometimes, occasionally, you just pause and ask some question if the students are being carried along. Another way to use it effectively is to summarize the key points at the end. Once you are done with all your classes, you can just try to summarize the class. So the second method of teaching is class discussion method. A class discussion method is a learner-centered method where students and teachers exchange ideas about a topic. At that moment, you cannot use it in a large class. You can't use a class discussion method in a large class. It has to be because we are talking about a learner-centered method where the student and teacher, you have to cast exchanging idea. What are the characteristics of a class discussion method? One of the characteristics is that highly interactive. It is highly interactive. It also encourages student voice, critical thinking, and collaboration. It is one of the methods that allow the student voice to be heard in the class. It's also good for exploring multiple viewpoints. Maybe you want to sample the opinion of your student and you start asking them, what do you feel about this class? What do you feel about this topic? And they started giving you different answers. The method you are using at that moment is class discussion method. Why use it? Why do we use it? Or when do we use it? Or let me say, why do we use it? It depends on understanding by linking the new ideas with student experience. It's also enhanced communication and reasoning skill. It helps the teacher to do what we call a check misconception. You want to check what's your idea about this topic. You'll be hearing the student's different view from the student. So it's going to help the teacher to check misconception about a topic. So when do we use it? It is used after reading an assignment or lecture. Maybe after you might have give them, maybe in a large class, you already have them in a large class. You use your lecture method. This time around now, you break them into group, and you now started asking them some kind of questions to a kind of interactive question. So also, when do we use it? We use it for moral, maybe subject like social issues that every student are aware of. That's when we can use a class discussion method. We also use it to encourage reflective thinking. Since you want to sample the opinions of the student, at that moment, they will start telling you different things. So how do we use a class discussion method? When you want to use it, you have to prepare a clear guide question. Don't forget that it is a method that allows the voice of the student to be heard. So you need to prepare a clear guiding question, because it's in form of training question to them, and you want to hear their opinions about it. It also encourages equal participation in the class. Then it sets classroom norms. As a teacher, how to use class discussion method is that you need to set a clear classroom norms, respect and listening. That is, they must respect all the student opinion. These are the method we use when we said all answers in the class are correct, because you want to hear the opinions of the student. So when to use it sometimes, it's used with think peer share, involve a shy student. There are some students that in the class, if you are in the lecture method, they will never say anything because they are in the large class. But during the class discussion method, even the shy student in the class, we don't have any choice than to get involved in that class. So another way to use it is to summarize the major idea at the end of the day. Once you are done with your class, you summarize the major idea. So another method of teaching, the third method of teaching, is the demonstration method. This is a method where the teacher or the learner show how a process works. You see, when we talk about demonstration, it's like you want to show demonstration for students now. Though, how do we go about this? Let's take, for instance, now, maybe I want to do a demonstration in my fraction class, and I just look around and I said, can you look at this? What is this? They tell me this is a page or a sheet. I fold it how many times? Once. Okay. If I come back, how many times now? Twice. How many times now? Thrice. Then if I unfold this, I can tell you that how many shape is this giving me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I ask the student to do the same thing. So the kind of method of teaching I'm using at that moment is what we call demonstration method. So I'm actually using a demonstration method. So one of the characteristics of a demonstration method is that it involves a physical display or step-by-step explanation. Just like I've explained this one to you. You can see that I started explaining that, okay, I fold it once, twice, thrice, and when I unfold it, when you fold a paper, a sheet thrice, how many shapes is it going to give you? It's going to give me 8. I'm going to have an 8 pattern on it. Can you see that now? So what I've just done is a demonstration method, and that's why I said it involves a physical display. You have to come into the class, they have to see you doing that kind of what? Demonstration. Another characteristic of a demonstration method is that students observe before attempting the skill. They don't know what you want to do. They don't know what you want to do. You as a teacher, you will be the first person to first of all demonstrate how the process works. And that is why I said it's a method where the teacher or the learner show how a process works. And when do we use it? When do we use it? Or let me say, why do we use it? Why do we use demonstration method? It is ideal for practical class, especially most of our science experiments. You see that nobody will do anything except when your instructor, first of all, take an attempt to do 1 or 2 things first. That's when you can come around and start doing your own. That's why I said it is ideal for practical class or in an information and communication technology class where you operate system. It's okay, look at me now. This is how to draw. This is how to open your window. This is how to do this. The teachers have to first of all start that first. So the best method to use in an ICT class or in a computer class, computer study class, is demonstration method. And the best method to use in a science class, especially when you are in a laboratory, is demonstration method. So Another reason why we use it is that it support virtual and what is it called? Calisthenic learning. So it also ensures safety before the student attempt the task. You ensure safety before the student attempt the task. You make sure that you have, before you do anything, probably maybe you are inside the chemistry lab or you are in a science lab, you make sure that there is safety of the student before you start asking them to try that. Maybe you want to try fire outbreak or whatever things you want to try that is very harmful with the student. You have to check the environment as a teacher before you do demonstration method. And there are some demonstration methods you cannot use in the classroom. You have to go out and do your demonstration. So when to use it, we use demonstration method in the lab. You also use it in workshop. You use it in vocational study, especially maybe you want to do construction or any other things that has to do with critical thinking or that has to do with skills. So it is used at that particular moment. So when teaching skill, when you are teaching skill that has to do with measurement, with typing, with cooking, with assembling models, you make use of demonstration method. So how do you use demonstration method? The first step to take when you want to use demonstration method is that you prepare material in advance. You have to prepare. Unlike this my own now, if I didn't have this material here, I'll still be looking around before I can see the material to use. Number two is that explain the purpose of the demonstration. I've just explained this one to you now, that I do this probably because I want you to know that in folding, when I fold in so form, I can see this now. If I ask you that, what is half of this? You can tell me it is 4 out of what? 8. So you have to explain the purpose of that demonstration. You don't just go into demonstration. Then you demonstrate slowly and clearly. Demonstrate slowly and clearly. Your demonstration should be in slowly. You do it steady by steady. You don't have to rush when you are doing demonstration method. Then highlight the critical step. You can put the steps on the chalkboard for them to see the step to follow. Maybe you tell them that the first step to follow is to first of all get a sheet of, maybe you say 10 centimeter by 5 centimeter. Fold it once. Second step, fold it in another attempt. Fold it third time and unfold it and count the numbers of shapes you see on it. So it has to be, you have to highlight the critical step. Then let the student replicate and practice what you have just demonstrated. You don't just demonstrate and leave the class and give them as an assignment. Then provide feedback. Let them know. Ask them, what do you feel about the topic? So the next method is problem-solving method. A problem-solving method, these are the learners. Learners are presented with a problem and guided them through the process of finding solution to them. You give them a problem and you guide them on how to find it. Maybe for instance now, if I want to give them a problem now, I can say, what is this with me? They will look at this. What object at home look like this? Some may say, oh, dice. Some may say, Maggie. Some may use different example for you. Some may say, a cube sugar look like this. You know, you've created a problem for them. And the learners are presented with that particular problem, but you are going to guide them through the process of finding solution to this. And you can now tell them that, oh, this thing you are seeing with you is a 3-dimensional shape. This is what we call solid shape because it's a 3-dimensional shape. So you create the problem, learners are presented with a particular problem, you guide them through the process of finding solution to that particular problem. So one of the characteristics of a problem-solving method is that it's inquiry-based and analytical. It's inquiry-based. You are starting with a question. It's a method you start with question. Then the second characteristic is that solutions are discovered, not memorized. You allow the student to discover the solution. Unlike this one, if I ask them, how many faces can I see on this? They will tell you, they will be the one to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the solution are discovered, not memorized. You are not teaching them in such a way that they are going to memorize that a cube has 6 faces. You allow them to discover the faces. Another thing is that it promotes self-direct learning. It promotes self-direct learning. Why use it? Why do we use it? Number one is that we use it to develop a critical thinking, creativity, and decision making. It also encourages a deeper understanding rather than remote learning. It also prepares the student for real life challenges. It prepares them for real life challenges. So when do we use it? We use it in subjects in sciences. We use that method in science classes. We use it in our science. We use problem solving method in our science classes. We use it in mathematics class. We also use it in entrepreneurship class. For instance, if I say, okay, if I buy a dozen of a pencil at the rate of 100 naira and I sell each of the pencil at the rate of 10 naira, how much profit am I making on that after selling the dozen of that pencil? You know, different one of them will tell, can say, okay, you are going to make a profit of 20 naira. They'll be giving you different answer. So you can use it in an entrepreneurship class. So we can also use it when teaching environmental issue or conflict resolution. Environmental issue that some of them knows about, you can use it then. So how do we use it? Likewise, for every method you want to use, you have to first of all prepare a clear and a relevant problem. You know, we said it's a problem solving method. So you need to prepare a clear and relevant problem. That problem you want to create must be irrelevant with what you want to teach them. You must not want to be probably like now when I'm talking about this now. Of course, when I talk about shape, I'm actually talking about a topic in mathematics that we call shape or we call mensuration. So probably if I want to teach fraction now, it's not possible for me to be giving them a problem related to shapes. So I have to give them a problem that are related to fraction as well. So number two process is that you guide learner through steps. You identify the problem, you analyze the problem, you generate a possible solution before the class, and you also evaluate and choose the best solution. And you talk about the implementation and the reflection of that problem you have created. So those are the ways to use problem solving method. You can also encourage group collaboration. At that moment, is going to encourage what we call a group collaboration. Then it is also evaluate the solution process, not just the final answer. You are going to take them through how they do make use of that solution. So the number 5 method of teaching is what we call cooperative learning method. The cooperative learning method. Students work in when we talk about cooperative learning method, it is when you divide your students in a small group to achieve a shared academic goals. Cooperative learning. You know, you remember cooperative, yes. Your mommy will tell you they were going to cooperative meeting. That cooperative that you are going, that's the same cooperative. You know, they were always in groups. So likewise, a cooperative learning method is also a students who are going to work in a group to achieve a shared academic goals. So one of the characteristics of cooperative learning method is a structured group with interdependence. You put them in each of the group with different tasks. So it promotes teamwork. It promotes teamwork, promotes communication, and it also promotes accountability. So why do we use cooperative learning method? We use it to enhance achievement for all learners, especially low achiever students. It also builds a social and interpersonal skill. It also encourages inclusive learning. So when do we use it? We use it in a complex task needing different viewpoint. You are giving them a particular topic that you know that it is very taxing, very abstract in nature, and you put them in a group and you ask them to start working on it. So it's a complex task needing different viewpoints. At that moment, you'll be hearing different opinions from different angles. And you bring their opinion together and you tell them that they should just come in a conclusion and come and make presentation on that. And then the cooperative learning method we are talking about is one of the methods some of our lecturers use. They will put you in a group and give you with a task. So we also use it in a mixed ability classroom. And like I said, is also used for project work or a case study. So how do we use it? How do we use cooperative learning method? The first thing is that you create a group of either 4 to 10 with diverse ability. When you want to create that group, you mix them with low learners and the high learner. You don't just put the low learner together and put the high learner together. You know they will definitely beat each other. Then number two thing you are going to do is that you assign a clear roles for them. In that place, you are going to appoint a leader, you appoint a writer, somebody that will serve as a secretary. You appoint a timekeeper that will check time for them. You also appoint a reporter, somebody that will come and make the presentation for you. You know, it's quite different from leader. Leader is just to guide them on how to do it. Then you also are appointing 3 persons there. The leader, the writer, take note of everything they were doing, the timekeeper, then you also appoint a reporter that will do summary of what they have done in that group. So another step to use cooperative learning is that you use cooperative structure like think, peer, share. Use a cooperative structure like a jigsaw. You think, peer, share. Then you also monitor the progress and guide the group. As a teacher, you have to monitor the progress and guide the group. So assess both the group outcome and individual contribution during that class. You want to know individual contribution. Otherwise, it will be the same set of people that will just be working without others. Let me see, for those that are joining us, let me just confirm if you can hear me clearly. Let me confirm if you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you. Please, those that are joining us, I want to know if you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you. I can see some that are saying, okay, thank you. So another method, the number 6 method of teaching is guided discovery method. Guided discovery method is a teacher guides learner to discover principle or concept by themselves. This actually works when you are talking about principles. In one of my class, when I was talking about the guided discovery method, which is also called discovery method, I was asking students that, can anyone tell me the first and the second law of motion? A lot of people are saying different things. And I said, if your teachers have used what we call discovery method, you will have known that in that law that you are saying, what is it called? An object will remain at rest until an external force acts on it. Let's see this object now. Let us assume this stands still. Yes, this object will remain in this place. If it is putting on a stone or I put it on something, it will remain in that position until an external force acts on it. So one of the work of a guided discovery method is that the teacher guides the learner to discover principle. It guides the learner to discover principle or concept by themselves. So some of the principles we normally go into the class and talk about, tell them, how did they come about the principle? How did they come about the principle? Why did they say an object will remain at the same position until an external force acts on it? You can show different examples. Maybe you put a block, a molding block. You put it on a position, and the following day you do a mark around the block, the molding block. And the following class, you come back and you go down there and you ask them, did this block move away from here? They said no. So can someone push this block now? When you push, they will say, okay, what happened when somebody said that block remained in that position until you ask somebody to push the block away? So a guided discovery method is a teacher guides learners to discover principle or concept by themselves. So one of the characteristics of a guided discovery method is that it's a semi-structured inquiry. It's more or less as an inquiry-based method, but it's a semi-structured inquiry. So another characteristic is that teacher provide a clue, not an answer. At that particular place now, you are just going to give them a kind of a clue, not that you are giving them the answer. Then it's going to give the student to explore materials and reflect. So why use it? Why do we use guided discovery method? It encourages curiosity and independency. It deepens conceptual understanding of the student. Then students also learn how to learn. Students learn how to what? How to learn. That's the characteristics of those are the reasons why we use the guided discovery method. So when do we use it? It is used in science class. It is used in math class, like concept like maybe we are taking concept like fraction, classification. I've talked about the fraction the other time. Let me use another example let me also use this also as an example for what we refer to as a guided discovery method. Look at it now. Maybe I just tell you that, look at this. I've cut this into two, and I said, look at this now. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I drop 3, so and I tell you that this 3 in my hand, it is 3 out of how many paper? You tell me it is 3 out of 5. Now, I leave that. I come to this one now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I come up with 2. I take 2 up. It is expected of a student to say, this is 2 out of 6, because I've already shown them the process I am actually looking for. So, it's students learn how to learn. So, when do we use it? Like I said, we use it in science class, we use it in math class, when fostering inquiry or curiosity of our students. So, how to use it? The first method on how to use a guided discovery method is to present a material or problem, that is experiment or a puzzle. So ask guiding question. You already have a guided question you want to use. Let the learner explore pattern. Allow students to formulate conclusion. Facilitate class discussion of discovery. For instance now, if I say 23 multiplied by 11 is 253. 21 multiplied by 11 is 231. 41 multiplied by 11 is 451. You know, I've just been telling you without working in, without doing anything. But I can give them a guide that, you know, what I'm doing is that 41 multiplied by 11, if I had 4 plus 1, it will give me 5. If I put that 5 in between 4 and 1, it will give me 451. And that is why 41 multiplied by 11 is 451. I've given them a structure. If I now go ahead and ask them that, what is 23 multiplied by 11? As a brilliant student, you should be able to tell me 253. So it allows learner to formulate conclusion. So that is that about the guided discovery method. So another method I'll be talking about is concept mapping method. A concept mapping method. Concept mapping method is the method we use in all our elementary schools. And they will tell you that after they have taught them 1, 2, 3, and they want to know if they know how to count number, they can put 2 circles and write the number, scatter the number, write 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they will put 2 circles. They say match this with a number. Students that have been taught, we know that, okay, after counting it 2, the answer is what? 2. The answer is 4. The answer is 5. Or at upper class, maybe you are talking about diagram. You give them a diagram. So a concept mapping method is using diagram to solve relationship between concepts. Example is what I've just told you now. If I say I draw an apple, I have a pictures of an apple and I put A. I have a pictures of a ball and I put B. I have a pictures of what is it called? A clock and I have C. And I said match with the first letter. A brilliant student should say A is for what? Apple. So he's using diagram to solve relationship between concepts. One of the characteristics of a concept mapping method is that visual learning strategy is a visual learning strategy. It's also a node representation concept, line showing relationship. It is the line that will show the relationship. So when do we use it? It helps students. Sorry, why do we use it? We use it because it's going to help students. It helps us because it's going to help students to organize idea. It makes students to know how to organize an idea. Then it also breaks down concept information. It enhances long-term memory and meaningful learning. When do we use it? It is used when you are introducing a new topic. It is also used during lesson to show connection. It is used during lesson to show what? Connection. Then it is also used after lesson for review or an assessment. Maybe you want to test the cognitive level of your student in that particular topic you have taught them. So when do we use? How do we use a mapping method? How do we use it? How do we use a concept mapping method? How do we use it? How to use it? Number one is that you provide the main idea or the key term. Number two, guide the learners to hard relationship concept. Number three, link ideas using label arrows. So your arrow must be the same thing. Then it also encourage group creation of map. Then it use map for revision. So that your mapping is going to use it for revision. So the eighth method of teaching is metacognition method. Metacognition method is a teacher's learner to reflect and regulate their own thinking. Teachers learners to reflect on and regulate their own thinking. Metacognition. Teaching learners to reflect on and regulate their own thinking. So one of the characteristics of a metacognition method is that it focuses on planning, monitoring, evaluation learning. So learners become active manager of their own thinking. Why use metacognition method? It improves student academic performance significantly. It builds lifelong learners. Because once they were able to recognize that particular thing, that's why I said it's a teaching learners to reflect on and regulate their own thinking. It also supports independent and self-regulation. So when do we use metacognition method? It is used for difficult or concept tasks. When teachers study skills or reading comprehension, you can also use it before, during, and after a problem-solving method. You use metacognition around that method. So how do we use it? One of the best way to use it is that you teach learner to ask themselves. Teach learner to ask themselves. So, what's my goals? What strategies can I use? Am I understanding this? What should I do differently? So you need to put those things there before you talk about metacognition method. So you use learning journals or reflection. So you provide a kind of a checklist for self-monitoring. So it's a kind of a method that like I said, is a teaching learner to reflect on and regulate their own thinking. Metacognition is just like is a method for you to checkmate what you have taught the learners. So the ninth method is argumentation method. It's a method where students claim and support them with evidence. You ask them question in the class and they tell you that 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. And you ask them why it is 6. You'll be getting different answers. Some will tell you that 2 plus 2 plus 2 in 3 places is 6. Why some will tell you that 3 plus 3 in 2 places is going to give you 6. So argumentation method is a method where the student make claim and support them with evidence. So when the teachers are emphasizing on why do you say this, why do you say that, that teacher is using what we call argumentation method. So one of the characteristics of argumentation method is that it's a logical reasoning and evidence-based thinking. You want to be sure of their own answer. It also promotes debate and critical analysis. It promotes debate and critical analysis. So why use it? It encourages deep understanding beyond memorization. It strengthens communication and reasoning skills. It helps the learners to defend ideas academically. Not that they will just tell you the answer. They should be able to prove. They should be give evidence based on what they were trying to tell you. So when do we use it? When to use it? It involves, controversy. Maybe you are talking about ethics, ethnics, or climate change. You use it around that moment. Or maybe in a science topic requiring claim evidence. Maybe after you in a practical class now, after you have performed your experiment, the students should be able to explain the reason why they are bringing that result for you. When you use that, you are using argumentation method. So how to use it? How do you use argumentation method? It is used to teach structure. It's used to teach structure from claim to evidence to reasoning. That is CER. Claim, evidence, and reasoning. So it provides a real data scenario. You have to have a lot of reason to back up your point. So another way to use argumentation method is that it debate or a structured argument. So anytime you are doing debate, either for or against, you are using what we call argumentation method. So another way to use it is assess based on evidence. Assess based on evidence. So I'm going to go on to talk about the third method of teaching, which we call project-based learning method. Project-based learning method. A project-based learning method. So learners complete extended tasks that address the real-world problem. A project-based learning method. These are the method, project-based learning method. These are the method that we call a structure-centered and inquiry-driven. It's an integrated, it integrates multiple subjects. It emphasizes application of what? Application of knowledge. Those are the problem-based methods. So when do we use problem-based method? It developed a 21st century skill: collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking. It talked about the 3C: collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking as well. It also encourages innovation and problem solving. It makes learning relevant to real life. And that is why it is called problem-based learning. It's a learner's complex extent task that address the real world problem. So when do we use it? I've talked about when do we use it. It is actually used in the STEM class: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Or maybe in an environmental education or a community development. Or when teaching design or entrepreneurship or something that has to do with research into a new idea. That is when you use problem-based learning method. And problem-based learning method make a content remain in the brain of the student for life. It's just like when we talk about inquiry-based learning method. So how do we use it? You have to present a driven question. Probably you start with how can we reduce waste in our school? You started hearing different ideas. Some may say, oh, by telling the student not to drop anything on the floor. So some may say, oh, by asking the student to come to the school with their own waste bin, by asking the student to drop whatever they eat inside the waste bin, by encouraging a recycle bin and some other things like that. So present a driven question. That's the first step to use a problem-based learning method. It also another way to use it is that it allows the student to plan and investigate. It's going to give them a level of planning and investigation. So it guides research and teamwork. Another way to use it is that organized presentation and exhibition or project display, project exhibition. That's why I said it is majorly used in sciences. So when you ask them to do something and you ask them to come around and make the presentation of what they have done, that is a project-based learning method. They are the learning through projects. Students learn through projects. So another way to use it is to evaluate the process and final product. You have to come back and tell us what they have done. So that is the 10th method of teaching. The 11th method of teaching is what we call competency-based learning, the CBL, competency-based learning. A competency-based learning focuses on learners mastering specific skills or competency. And that is why when you want to teach a specific skills, you use what we call competency-based learning. Most of the apprentices we see around, they make use of what we call competency-based learning. And competency-based learning is what we use in most of our technical school. They were going to focus on one particular skill and they master that skill to the core. So one of the characteristics of a competency-based learning CBL is that mastery-based progression. That's the first characteristic. The second characteristic is the learning pace is personalized. Their learning pace is what? Personalized. It emphasizes on skill, not just content. That's why they call it competency-based learning. When you want to teach them a particular skill, you make use of competency-based learning. You want them to master that skill. Maybe they want to master what is it called? Fashion designing. You tell them how to cut a cloth. You give them the skill how to sew. You give them the skill on how to draw pattern on the cloth. That's a competency-based learning. So why use it? We use it to ensure learners acquire essential ability. It also reduces learning gap. It prepares students for professional work. If we can be using competency-based learning method in all our schools, especially in some of our vocational studies, it will make the student to be what? To become, to prepare them for professional work. So when do we use it? We use it, of course, I've talked about when to use it in a vocational class or in a technical education class or occupation skill training like ICT, like agriculture or breeding or building trade. So courses with explicit competency, we use it at that particular class. So how do we use it? Number one is that you identify a clear competency, an ability in a particular skill, and you make sure that you get a professional to go about that. Number two is that you design an activity that builds each skill. Design an activity that builds each skill. Like I talk about fashion designing now, you have to talk about cutting skill, you have to talk about sewing skill, you have to talk about patterning skill. So design an activity that builds each of the skill related to that particular thing. And that is when it becomes a competency-based method. So maybe you use rubrics or performing tasks. It's also, you allow the learner to retry until mastering is shown. You don't just say because you can't know this one, you can't know how to do it. They have to continue doing it until they become masters of that particular thing. So the last step is to provide continuous feedback. Go and do it. Let me see how you have done it. Oh, this one is good now. maybe you want to ask a student now to go and construct a sphere for you. You ask a student to go and construct a sphere for you. When you ask a student to go and construct a sphere for you, he come with another thing entirely. You keep asking the student, a sphere look like a ball, a sphere look like an orange, a sphere look like an apple. So you are trying to tell the student that when you want to come back, bring something that look like an orange for me before you can call it a what? A sphere. So maybe in a furniture class or in any vocational class, to make sure that that student actually acquire or get the skill. So I've just tell you how to use it. Number one on how to use that, you identify a clear competency, build design activities that build e-skill, use rubrics or performance tasks, allow learner to retry until master is shown in what they are doing. And finally, the final method of teaching we'll be talking about is Culturo-Techno-Conceptual Approach. Culturo, from the word culture, Culturo-Techno-Conceptual Approach, CTCA, is a Nigerian or an African instructional approach that blends culture with technology and concept to enhance learning. Is an African instructional approach that blends culture with technology and context to enhance learning. So one of the characteristics of a Culturo-Techno-Conceptual approach is that it begins with learner socio-cultural experience. They must first of all know their socio-cultural, they must have a socio-cultural experience. Then, before you talk about integrate digital tools, before you now connect both the content to real life situation. So you have to manage the two together, both the word, the culture, the technology, and the context to enhance learning. That is Culturo-Techno-Conceptual Approach. So why use it? We use it to make learning more meaningful and relevant. It also improves comprehension by linking new knowledge to familiar cultural elements. It builds traditional and modern learning environment. Maybe you talk about, of course, now majority of us, what we know is chalkboard, and somebody come with an interactive board, and you want to tell them the difference between the two. Okay, on an interactive board, you use your pen to touch the screen, but in a what is it called? In a traditional way, you use your chalk to touch the board to write on the board. But for the interactive board, you use your pen to touch and write the word, the board. So you are bleeding the word, bridging the traditional and the modern learning environment. Or maybe you talk about inquiry-based learning or simulation. Some of us, if you go online now, there's something, we have different simulation. One of my best simulation is what we call PhET simulation, developed by University of Colorado. PhET simulation developed by University of Colorado. So over there, you are going to see some simulated environment that doesn't require you going into lab before you perform some experiment. So such now can be called a Culturo-Techno-Conceptual Approach. Culturo-Conceptual Approach. So when do we use it? Is teaching abstract or foreign concept. When you are teaching an abstract or a foreign concept. For instance, I used to ask my students that the only method when I want to teach graph, especially quadratic graph, when I want to teach quadratic graph, I have to get my graph board. You as a student need to get your graph sheet, which make it somehow difficult. But if I go to that environment called PhET simulation environment developed by University of Colorado, I can make use of the graphing quadratic there, and I will just be playing around. It has the board there, it has everything, and I will see the relationship that exists between the variables. So we use it when we are teaching an abstract concept. So we also use it in a cultural diverse resources limited classroom, in a cultural diverse resources limited classroom, people with different concepts, different ideas, people with different cultural background, you make use of that method. You know that sometimes when they were reading news, some people will go and be doing sign there. Some people will go and be doing a kind of sign so that those people with what is it called, hearing impairment, they can understand what they were saying. So when you are using that kind of a method, you are also making use of what to call Culturo-Techno-Contextual method. So, or when you are trying to improve engagement or retention, you can make use of what we call Culturo-Techno-Conceptual approach. So I'll quickly talk about the step to use it. One of the steps to use it is cultural stage. First step is to use cultural stage. You introduce a topic using a cultural story or a proverb or practice. Maybe you want to teach how they do in holy days, or in a Yoruba class, you want to teach them Oduifa or something like that, and they have never seen such before. You have to start with cultural story or a proverb that related to that. An example is that maybe you are using a local farming practice to teach photosynthesis. Now, okay, when you plant what is it called? When you plant a corn, when it is growing, why is it that it always go up? So you can use local farming practice to teach photosynthesis, or you plant what is it called? Cassava. Why did it go up? And in that place now, maybe you ask them to bring a cardboard. Okay, bring a seed of beans and plant it. Ask them to bring carton and open a place and tell them that by the time this thing will be growing, it's going to grow through this space we open here. And you can come back to the next class and ask them. So those are the kind of way to make use of that method. Number two is that the technology stage. The first one is cultural stage. That's when you use a cultural story or proverb or practice. The second one is technology stage. Maybe you use video, simulation, animation, or app. So in that wise, you are showing an animation of a plant growing. At that particular second stage now, you have been using technology stage. The first one is that you talk about local farming practice. So the third stage is the context stage. That is a stage where you are going to relate the topic to students' daily experience. Maybe you link photosynthesis to food production in their community, and they'll start getting it. The last stage is the activity stage. That is where the students were going to work in group on a contextual task. For example, now you can tell them to investigate plant growth in a local environment, and you start seeing different ways they will start doing this. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the 12 methods of teaching I'll be sharing with you. In that wise, I want to conclude that before you make any of these methods, you need to first of all identify the appropriate one based on the objective, based on the learner's level, and likewise based on the context you want to share with them. Number two is that you need to apply different methods skillfully. So it is not in all cases you make use of one method throughout a class. You can make use of 2 or 3 methods of teaching in a class. Then also integrate both the traditional and modern strategies. You can see in our last video, I talked about the modern method of teaching. But this one is the general method of what? Of teaching. So the third one is adapt the method flexibly to change classroom conditions. So mastering all this method of teaching is going to prepare future teacher to become effective. And even those that are in the service already will make you to become an effective, reflective, and innovative teachers in our classroom. If you are joining us for the first time, you can try to make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and make sure you share this video to the other people that can enjoy the class with us. You have been in the class for over close to 1 hour now. We have been in the class and we have been talking about the method of teaching, essential teaching method every teacher must master. A practical guide to lecture methods and other method of teaching we normally adopt in our classroom. If you are joining us for the first time and you can hear me clearly, without looking at with what we have learned today, can you tell me 5 methods of teaching in the comment section? Tell me 5 methods of teaching in the comment section before we call it a day. Let me see the first person to say that. Tell me 5 methods of teaching in the comment section. I'm waiting. 5 methods of teaching in the comment section. Tell me 5 methods of teaching in the comment section. I'm waiting in the comment section. Thank you. Direct instruction. Demonstration, technology, enhanced learning. Thank you, Kukoyi. Who is going to tell us other method again? Project-based learning. Thank you. I want more. I want more. I want more. Okay, somebody talk about gamification. That one is a modern one. Flipped classroom, inquiry-based learning, technology enhanced. I think it's the same person that they have been talking, all right? So thank you very much. If you are just joining for the first time, you can try to subscribe to this channel and also like this video and also share the video with others. So see you till our next class. Of course, our next video is going to be related to what an in-service teacher can benefit in this class. Once again, my name is Kayode Adewale. Thank you all. Bye for now.